Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 287 of the All Dolphins podcast. As you can very well see, I am joined today by Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network, longtime Dolphin beat reporter and old pal. How long have you been doing this, Adam?
Covering the Dolphins?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. I think this is season number 14, maybe 13, 14, something like that.
Which means no playoff win for you.
Has 0 playoff wins.
Sorry.
2, 3 playoff appearances. Yeah. I forgot about the Skylar Thompson year. And a lot of mediocrity, but not this year. Not this year, baby.
There you go. That's the spirit. I mean, at the very least, now they've positioned themselves to where they're competitive and in the hunt year after year. And even this year, as we head into OTAs next week, they probably have as good a shot as most teams in the AFC. But we'll get to that later today on this Monday, May 13th. We'll be covering a couple of topics, including the big deal signed by Antoine Winfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, how it pertains to Javon Holland. The Dolphins offense, is it complete? Are there pieces missing, and where the team stands in the AFC hierarchy? Dolphins rookie minicamp will start, though, with the obligatory schedule. The NFL announcing today Baltimore at KC was going to be the kickoff classic, or whatever, kickoff game, how you want to say it. Adam, where do you fall into the group of those? Couldn't care less about the schedule. We already know who's playing who, or I'm excited. I want to see it.
I mean, I want to know when the primetime games are. I wrote there's 7 games really I'm looking for. And it could have been 8 because I only included the Bills and the Jets once, so it could have been 8 or 9. But I think those 9 games will really determine how far this team goes. And one of those 9 is the Tennessee Titans because
man,
that is a big revenge game. And I think the Titans are considerably better this year than they were last, even with Derrick Henry gone. So, I mean, it's a nice diversion. I don't get the let's roll it out all week and have an hour-long special to bring on all the talking head. Just tell me when and where I need to book my travel, and that's all I need.
No, that's fair. I mean, to me, it's better than, was it the NCAA basketball tournament, selection show where they spent 2 hours. And I think there might have been some years where they didn't reveal the final bracket until the end. It's like, can we just tell me all at once, and then I'll decide if I want to watch all the analysis? It's like, and the thing with the Tennessee Titans, you mentioned them, that wide receiver core after the addition of Tyler Boyd is no joke. I mean, with DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and then the fourth guy now is a former number 1 pick, Treylon Burks.
Yeah, I don't know how good he is, but certainly their top 3 is. Yeah. Their top 3 is really, really good. So, and I think the activity they've had this offseason kind of tells you what they think about Burks. So, I mean, he's a special player, and the money that they gave him is bananas. We'll see how much Tyler Boyd has left. I don't think the Dolphins thought he had a ton left. They made cursory calls early on in the process, but ended up going with Odell Beckham. So, and Odell Beckham's not the same player he was before either. But I think the combination of all those guys, Hopkins, maybe he's lost a step, but 3 of those 4 maybe not what we thought they were, but really is really, really good. And I think the combination of all those 4 with a quarterback who I think is going to take a step forward in 2024, and Will Levis. Look, that AFC South is usually a joke, but this year I can talk myself into picking any of those 4 teams. It should be wide open.
I concur. Now, I saw some things with Levis last year, not just the Dolphins game because he was very good in that game, but other games as well, even though the results weren't there and the numbers may not have been great, but there's something there. I mean, there's something there. And you're looking at a division that's got 3 second-year quarterbacks with C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. So I'm going to go out of order here because you brought up Odell Beckham. Where do you sit on his acquisition? So you're basically saying you prefer that to the Dolphins having gone after Tyler Boyd?
Yeah, I think he's more dynamic for sure. At this point, talking to our guys up in Cincinnati, Boyd was pretty much just a possession receiver, a slot type of guy. They have more than enough of those on the roster. They need someone who could be if need be, the X on the outside and really kind of stretch the field and be a big-bodied guy. And certainly he's not the dude he was a decade ago. I don't think anyone's expecting that. you don't get a player for $3 million if you think he's going to catch 120 balls for 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns. It's just not realistic. But they don't need him to be that on this roster, right? Tyreek and Jalen, I think, combined for half of all targets for the Dolphins last year. My guess is they want a little bit more balance than that. I think they want to get the running back involved. Certainly, they spent money on the tight end and Jonnu Smith in the passing game. So, I think if they become a little less predictable in what they do, that'll help them. And look, I mean, you have a guy like Beckham, who I was talking last week to Jeff Zrebeck on our pod over at PFN about the year he spent in Baltimore. And I think it was Zay Jones that was his locker partner, like his neighbor, sat next to him in the Ravens locker room. And the impact that Odell, kind of as a weird to think now, but an elder statesman, he could really be helpful with this group of receivers. Certainly, Tyreek Hill doesn't need any counseling. And I think Jalen Waddle is pretty much a fully formed player at this point. Oh, all right. I'll let you get to it in a second. Counseling on the field. We can discuss off the field all you want.
Okay.
But Malik Washington, Taj Washington, some of these younger guys, even Ezukama, who's still kind of an unknown here in Miami. I think I think Odell is going to be really helpful to the Dolphins and helping those guys develop. He's not going to be the guy that is going to demand 1 billion targets and all that anymore. It's just not who he is. I think he's been humbled a bit by what the market. He's gone from $15 million to $3 million in the course of 2 years. That's a big drop off. And I don't know his finances personally, but my guess is he doesn't need the money. He's doing this because he still wants to play and wants to win a ring. And if you have that guy, and even if it's 70 to 75% of the dude that he was in New York early in his career, $3 million is a pretty good bargain.
No, I agree that the only question or possible concern I would have in terms of, for lack of a better term, him playing nice the whole season is depending if his incentives are dependent on targets, receptions, and yardage, then that could become an issue. To me, where he could make the biggest difference is if Tyreek or Jalen Waddle have to miss a couple of games and they need somebody to step up and be like a true number one or a number two, where Beckham can do that to me, I think, more than Tyler Boyd at this stage.
His real quick, Alan, his career earnings are $99 million. If he's hurting for money, he did something really wrong. So, everybody wants more, but I don't know if money is his primary driver at this point in his career.
No, I agree, but there's also an ego factor involved as well.
Sure.
And I would think it's probably what was made clear to him, like, listen, this is what we do. And this is where Mike McDaniel and Frank Smith, by extension, and Tua, as much as great as Tyreek Hill has been, I think it could be addition by subtraction if they don't focus so much on him, even though he's the one who always comes through in the clutch and gets open, makes a big third down catch more often than not.
Yeah, and you saw him kind of break down physically, and I think he kind of broke down mentally a little bit last year too, because those drops he had late in the season were out of character. So I think they were asking him to do way too much. We can debate now if Tyreek 2K was a distraction going after 2,000 yards.
And he's talking about it again this year.
Say it again.
He's talking about it again this year, the 2K, and that's
don't love that, because I don't think that Tyreek going for 2,000 yards is in the best interest of this team winning. So,
agreed.
We'll see. But I think if they give him 1,700 yards and 12 touchdowns and he averages 15, 16 yards a catch, they'll be just absolutely thrilled with his production, and they're not going to feel like they got shortchanged.
No, I agree. I can't speak for what happened down the stretch. I can tell you that KC game in Germany, like all the vibes and all the signs, and you looked at him, he looked like a guy who was way, way over jacked to face his former team. And he was like, wanted to get a 50-yard catch on every single 5-yard reception. And that, to me, that he wasn't like himself. We teased the contract for Antoine Winfield. The numbers looks like 4 years, $84 million. Speaking of people who are not hurting financially. Two points here is, number one, this is a guy the Dolphins could have had in the 2020 draft. And of course, we're playing hindsight here. But it's painful when you think they took Noah Benogany 30th overall and Antoine Winfield was an early second-round pick. And I think a lot of people saw this guy is going to be a star. beyond the fact that he had the genes, obviously, with his father being a longtime NFL cornerback. And then the second part of it, as it more directly impacts the Dolphins now, is I'm sure Javon Holland put out a tweet saying, congratulating Antoine Winfield at the same time going, Dolphins, see what happened here? My turn.
Yeah, he's not going to get $21 million a year unless he has an absolute monster season this year. If he's looking to get paid this summer, I mean, he's probably going to get 60 cents in the dollar, if that, maybe. I could see him being like a $15, $17 million a year guy. Don't really see the game-changing plays out of Javon Holland that we saw out of Antoine Winfield and throughout his short career so far. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just looking up I put up a stat sheet while we were talking. 6 forced fumbles last year, 4 fumble recoveries, 6 sacks. Wow, 6 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hits. That tells me, I don't watch a lot of Buccaneers football. That tells me he plays a lot closer to the line of scrimmage than Holland does. And he's asked to blitz a lot more and get in there and mix things up. How many picks did he have? He had 3 interceptions as well. So 7 fumble recoveries or interceptions combined. That's a lot of turnovers from one dude. And I think that's a big reason why he's gotten paid, is because, look, Holland's in the right place at the right time. He knows what he's doing, obviously. And he's shown, I mean, we had the Fail Mary pick 6 against the Jets was really, I think, the only play I can remember he made all last year. I mean, I'm sure he made others, but really actual game-changing plays. You need more of those to be a $21 million a year guy. And I think if he's expecting that kind of money, even 9 months from now and free agency rolls around, he better put some of those interception fumble recoveries on the board.
No, I agree. And he had 2 forced fumbles, but they both came in the blowout against the Broncos, which, again, I mean, they were significant at the time, but this is not a game where it was a forced fumble and fumble recovery that really made a difference. I had a point to make and I totally forgot what it was. By the way, love that.
Sure was a good one. Yeah, I've almost got those, right? Let's go.
I know, I love that. Love that. Was very surprised and happy when I discovered that you were a hockey fan. That warmed my heart. I always like that among my fellow Dolphin beat writers.
I don't pay a ton of attention between, say, October and April, but mid-April to mid-June, I'm all in. I'll watch. I'll have the dual TVs going, the NBA one TV, hockey on the other, and I consume it all. I think I went to maybe 4 or 5 games in the regular season. So, and if I think of it, I'll turn it on, but I won't miss a second in the postseason.
Got it. No, for those who are watching the podcast are not aware, I used to cover the Panthers on a regular basis as a correspondent for NHL.com, a job that I relinquished.
Look, I don't think there's any coincidence that you left and they all of a sudden skyrocketed. I don't think that's a shocker at all. I mean, I think if it's not causation, it's definitely correlation.
Thank you, Mike McDaniel. For the record, I was there last year and went all the way to the Stanley Cup final.
All right, okay.
That was a blast. No, and I just remembered the point I was going to make. It related to Antoine Winfield, and you mentioned the 6 forced fumbles. And if memory serves, that tied for the NFL lead with 2 other players, I want to say, and one of whom was our very own Bradley Chubb. So there's that.
Who did it in what? How many games did Chubb miss last year?
Only one. This is the last one.
Oh, that's he didn't miss any earlier on the year. I guess Phillips missed a couple before his injury, but Chubb did not.
Mm-hmm. And I'm with you on Holland. And here's the thing: he looks the part. Like as you mentioned, he's usually in the right place at the right time. Doesn't make egregious mistakes in coverage. But I see the PFF rankings, and he's like the number 2 safety in the NFL. And my initial reaction invariably is like, no offense, but what are you watching? I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but he hasn't been like a difference maker like Antoine Winfield, like Cal Hamilton has been. And maybe this is where Anthony Weaver comes over as DC, brings in a defense that looks a lot what Mike McDaniel ran in Baltimore and unlocks him, and boom, all of a sudden he becomes this impact player in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, too, that to go back and look at the film, that he does a very good job in coverage where he's just not tested. I mean, that's possible. I'm going to look up his Pro Football Reference stats, like what his passing stats were against in 2023.
Go for it.
I mean, they were fine. They weren't great. 71% completions against, which is high, but it's only with a 7.6 yards per target, which is okay, not great. 2 touchdowns allowed and 1 interception. Yeah, there's nothing on those coverage advanced stats really jump off the page. So,
what's the opponent passer rating?
99.
Oh, that's high.
Yeah. So, in fact, those numbers are worse than I thought they would be. So we'll see. We'll see if a change in system could very clear that he didn't like playing for Vic last year. So maybe.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that, Adam? He said that wasn't related. The Kicking Rocks Instagram comment was not related to Vic Fangio leaving.
He also has a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn if you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, he is a player that if he wants to get that Winfield money, he's got to play at a high level this year.
Oh no, I agree. So are you anticipating? You're not anticipating a contract extension for him before the season. You're thinking the Dolphins let him play his contract.
Let's game that out. Let's prioritize the players that are in line for one. Okay, so Tua is obviously the biggest storyline of the offseason. Holland is in a contract year, right? He's in the final year of his rookie deal. Phillips and Waddle. Yeah, thank you for making my brain work. Phillips and Waddle got their 5th-year options picked up, so they're not necessarily under the gun this year to do it. But I think you need to include them in that batch because, look, with Waddle, every year closer to his free agency is more money you're going to have to pay to keep the guy. I think, what did his buddy Devontae Smith get? I mean, 20 something, somewhere in that neighborhood, 20 a year, I think. Yeah, I mean that's maybe even more. Like the new money might have been 25. I think it was. I mean, it's just bonkers how much money these wide receivers are getting paid now. I think over the life of his 5-year contract, it was about 20 a year, and the new 3 years of money was 25 a year. That's a lot of coin, man. That's a quarterback salary 6 years ago. How would you rank those in terms of if you were running the Dolphins? And this is probably going to tweak you with your Tua take right now. But if you were
what Tua take?
Yeah, we'll see your answer before I reveal my cards. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Tua is the one. The Tua contract, if done correctly, could unlock a lot of possibilities for this team, both short and long term. I don't know if his side's going to agree to the correct one. And I mean, we're 3 months into the offseason now, almost 4 months into the offseason now. And really, if there has been movement, we haven't heard about it. That's interesting to me. But Holland, Waddle, and Phillips are the other 3 that I think that they're really concerned about.
Yeah, and I would imagine you're familiar with a report from a local newspaper in South Florida from a reputable agent with no horse in the game, other than the fact that every big contract rises the level of pay for everybody, which was part of my point. That basically puts them like at the top, and the money to me was completely crazy. And to me, the Dolphins acquiescing to that makes zero sense. I'm not saying they won't, because again, every signal that they've sent is basically Tua's our guy, Tua's our man, he's our future, and all that. So those are the signs that have been given out. I don't need to repeat my position or explain my position again, other than to say to me, you play on the 5th-year option, and we'll revisit next spring. And outside of the other guys, here's the thing. To me, where Waddle, I think, might take a little bit of precedence is you don't want to have an issue with him, because I think you and I agree on this. If you look at Tyreek's contract with no guaranteed money beyond this year, the fact that they didn't restructure him when they needed cap space this offseason, I'm not sure the dude's going to be on the roster very much longer past 2024.
Yeah, you and I are of the same mind. Certainly, he's not going to see his 26. I think it's $45 million. That's fantasy land. He's not going to see that. So if the Dolphins want to keep him long term, they should tear up that contract and write a new one, right? And make it a legitimate 3-year deal, 4-year deal that he has a chance to see that money and not know that he's going to fall off a cliff in 2 years. And look, Tyreek, dynamic player. He has made this team much better. One of the 10 best players in all football, regardless position. He's really, 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 really good.
Yep.
That being said, they've won 0 playoff games since he's arrived. He has vanished in some of the biggest moments of the last 2 seasons down the stretch last year, the playoff game in 2023. I mean, then there's the off-field stuff that I don't know if you want to get into or not, but there's a long list of issues, I think is the way to put it,
yes.
that have been embarrassing to the franchise, I'm sure, embarrassing to him and to his family, I'm sure. Look, there's 2 ways I look at this. Yes, you could play out 25 and then cut him after that. To me, that would probably be better value for what you gave up to get him. And that's the thing is that, I mean, I know those picks are gone now, but they gave up a bunch of draft picks to get the dude, including a first-round pick. And so do you feel as an organization that if you gave up all those assets for a 3-year rental, in addition to giving him a ton of money, was it worth it? I don't know. I don't know. But if you're purely looking at it from a financial standpoint, and if you can keep one long-term, do you keep him or Waddle? The answer's got to be Waddle, right? I mean, he's 30 years old now, right? He's over 30.
Yeah.
Speed guys, there is diminishment. You get 33, 34, beyond there. I mean, you see these receivers that play forever and they're more either big body guys or they just know how to get open. And Tyreek is a speed guy. And again, he's got the full range of tools in his toolbox, but I could absolutely see a path for them being done with Tyreek after the season. It wouldn't take a lot of imagination to see that result. So yeah, I agree with you. Waddle, to me, you got to make sure you have that guy locked up.
No, I agree. And then I'm not sure that I wouldn't put Holland second, but again, depending on the kind of, with every guy, it depends on the kind of money that they're looking for. If they're going to be unreasonable, it's like, just because, for example, all the signs are that the Dolphins want to sign Tua to a long-term contract extension. Tua wants to stay here, but the money's got to work because the Dolphins, shockingly enough, want to pay Tua less than his representation wants him to get. So
I will say this: of those 4, I think Phillips could end up being the best bargain for them. That injury last year totally screwed him because I don't know if he would have made a Pro Bowl, but he definitely would have met his playing time incentives he needed to get to the next level of 5th-year option. But because he didn't, where his base is now in discussions for a long-term contract aren't great. I think between this year and next, he's guaranteed maybe $15-16 million total over those 2 years. I'll have to look up the numbers, but it's definitely under 20, right? It's probably he's probably a $7 or $8 million a year player if you just took the next 2 years of his contract. And that's how, when you do these extensions going forward, he's like, okay, well, if you want those, if you want a 5-year contract that includes a 3-year extension beyond the 2 years that are currently on your deal, and you want to get paid at pretty close to a market rate for those years, sure, we'll give you those 3 years for an additional $66 million, but we'll still have you on the hook for 16 now.
Right.
Would he agree to a 5-year, $80 million contract? If he does, and you have confidence in his rehab, that's a no-brainer to me. I mean, that's the thing.
And there's the other factor with Phillips, depending on how much weight the Dolphins put into this. He might be the face of the organization when we're talking about community events. I mean, that dude's all over the place. He's on the board for the Dolphins Challenge Cancer event. And you want to talk about, like, you want somebody as a face of your franchise in terms of what it represents. I mean, that's your guy right there. So again, I don't know how much that plays into it. Okay, let's wrap this up talking about, we'll go with where the Dolphins stand in the AFC pecking order. We kind of discussed this earlier, and I threw that out. Again, to me, you throw out the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't know that there's a clear number 10. The Baltimore Ravens is going to be the knee-jerk reaction because of the season they had last year.
They had some big time turnover. Like people talk about the Dolphins turnover, they've had some big time turnover, and not just on the field. Like their coaching staff got ravaged, absolutely ravaged in part by the Miami Dolphins. So, it wouldn't at all surprise me if the Bengals win the AFC North. Burrow comes back healthy. They still have those top 2 wide receivers for at least one more year. Would not at all surprise me if the Bengals dethroned the Ravens in the AFC North.
No, I agree with you, and I think here's the thing: there are so many good teams in the AFC, and this is where if the Dolphins were in the NFC, we'd be talking. Okay, it would be so much simpler. There's so many good teams in the AFC because Houston's on the rise. The Chiefs obviously are there. The Bills obviously are going to be there. The Jets, if they avoid injuries, obviously if every team avoids injuries, but they're more susceptible because they have a lot of injury-prone veterans, for lack of a better term. You can throw in.
Look, the Chargers with Herbert and Harbaugh, who knows? I mean, you put a really good quarterback and a really good coach together, and that masks a lot of deficiencies. So I don't think they're going to make a run, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're the 7 seed. And if you're the Dolphins and you don't catch the Bills this year, or the Jets, somehow unlock the magic of Aaron Rodgers from a decade ago, you're worried about the 7 seed. So that's the thing about the Dolphins, and I think we're making the same point here, is that I can see them anywhere from the 2 seed to the 10 seed. Like I think there's that much variance with this team this year.
Okay, last one from me to you. If right now, who's your favorite in the AFC East?
In the AFC East.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll tell you what the Vegas favorite is. It's the Bills.
I know the Vegas Bills favorite. Yeah.
I looked it up today. I think they're plus 200, I think. And the Dolphins and the Jets are they're plus 160. And the Dolphins and Bills are plus 200. So the 3 of them are basically coin flips, right? They're all right there. Who's my favorite? I keep wanting to write up the Bills, and they keep embarrassing me because the Dolphins, let them back into it last year. I don't believe in the Jets. I don't. I think if there is a year for the Dolphins to finally win the AFC East, this is the year. Will they do it? I don't know, but it's set up for them really good because the Bills are absolutely a franchise in flux right now. And again, if you have Josh Allen, a lot of that doesn't matter, right? I think what the question is, do you think are you asking me if I think the Jets are for real? And as much of a talent, influx as they've had, still the New York Jets until I'm proven otherwise. For sure. Let's go. Miami Dolphins are my favorite to win the AFC East.
He didn't mean it, Jets fans. He's just joking. He's just joshing. That's what Adam does. Dude, if we're going to be honest about it, to me, I think last year was their year too. I mean, with the lead that they had. And the Bills looked like they were in disarray. They were like stumbling along after that. Was it the Philly loss where they played well, but they would look, 3-game lead with 5 games left, and then
5-game winning streak will kind of fix all those concerns.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I do think it's there. To me, I think you have to make the Bills are slightly the favorite until proven otherwise, because Josh Allen to me is the clear best quarterback in the division. But I think the Dolphins absolutely, positively have a legitimate shot.
Yeah, look, for them to do it, they're going to need. Tua is the obvious. Like he's going to need to play better than he did last year, which was good. It wasn't great. It was good. Best he's played, and take another step forward. Can you do that? The team insists he can, and we'll find out. And how quick can that defense get it together with Anthony Weaver? That's because even last year, it took them a month with Vic, and they didn't have nearly the player turnover that they have now. So you have a new system and a bunch of new players. It could get raggedy early on. So if they open up and have to go and check, all the high-powered offenses they're going to face, but if they get a bunch of those really, really scary offenses in the first month of the season, they could find themselves at 1-3 just because their defense isn't ready.
We'll find out Wednesday night, won't we? Wednesday night, 8 p.m. For those not aware, is the NFL official schedule release day. We'll find out when the Dolphins play and what dates and times, because we already know who. And speaking of knowing who, we know this was Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network. Bees, thanks, my man. Appreciate it. And we're going to sign off. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be back tomorrow.
Let's finish off the Bruins.
There you go.